And the sewer department and even the fire department have some vehicles that are no longer serviceable for the purposes that we need to use them as. These would be put up for auction, and we would expect them to bring at least $1,000 apiece.
Any other comments on the meat of 11107? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 111 passes 7-0. 11207, an ordinance amending the 2007 appropriation ordinance. Councilmember Sands.
Madam President, this is an ordinance that has several sections to it. In Section 1, we would appropriate from the unappropriated balance several things. $2,000 to the Recreation Fund. This would repair 2 slide sets that the mayor talked about in committee last week, one on the East State Street recreation area and one at Southside Park. Then there's $19,000 appropriated to the Community Center Fund. We have received a grant from
The Department of Health.
the United States Department of Health?
Yeah, no, the
Okay.
Ohio Department.
Ohio Department of Health, for approximately $16,000, and then we will add a little bit of that, about $3,000 to that, to replace some elliptical exercise machines at the community center. These machines were there when the center opened 7 years ago. They have been used heavily, and it's time to replace them. And then there's $1,000 to the garbage fund, $300 to the general fund, actually code enforcement. These are to put some additional funds in their refund lines. Occasionally, citizens pay a fee or a fine twice, or maybe they pay it and it's not actually appropriate for them to pay it, and we need to refund the money. So these 2 areas need some additional money for that purpose. And in Section 2, we're appropriating $15,000, decreasing the recreation fund in one area, 15, and transferring it to another area. And I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm not exactly sure. This is, it has to do with the computer upgrades partially.
No,
No?
we dropped that from the ordinance. because
Okay,
the
never mind.
Auditor's Office looked that over. This is a combination of a couple of things. I mean, as I've mentioned before many times, the Park and Recreation Fund really is almost like a rotary fund in the old terminology, where you run a program, you budget what you think it's going to be, and then it could either wildly exceed expectation or lower them. One of those such was over Labor Day weekend, we ran a program for women in retreat for leisure activities at Burr Oak. Included the hotels, or at the cabins, sharing things. Well, we had 38 people sign up for it, so it wildly exceeded our expectations. And so the bills are a little bit higher, so I need more into the 200 and 300 series to cover that. And there are a few other areas of the budgets that are running a little bit tight in the 200 and 300. And so rather than go down appropriated balance, I reviewed the personnel line items, and we've got about 4 months of cost savings on health insurance from the vacancies that's there, plus then the position you created last year for Arts West program person wasn't filled on a full-time basis until mid-May, so therefore there were dollar savings there, along with health insurance that had been budgeted for. So rather than go unappropriated, I decided just to unappropriate there and switch it to where we need it.
So, explain that part.
Other comments?
No, thank you. No.
11307, an ordinance authorizing the preliminary and design engineering of the Richland Avenue corridor.
Madam President, this is an ordinance that authorizes the Service Safety Director to enter into contracts for preliminary design engineering for the Richland Avenue corridor improvements to the 682 Richland Avenue intersection, the Richland Avenue Bridge, the one over the Hocking River, and possibly some additional areas on Richland Avenue. The administration has in the past sent out requests for qualifications to engineering firms, and they've received about 16 responses. They've narrowed that down to number one through a series of community members involved in this. To Burgess and Nyepel, they have submitted a proposed scope of services that I think all of you have. This ordinance would authorize the Service Safety Director to enter into contract with Burgess and Nyepel if he was satisfied with this proposal. Nancy?
Were we talking about 100,000 in the committee meeting, or was that,
We
I know 500,000 total, but I thought we
500
were
was
talking about
talked
starting
about,
with 100.
and then in committee meeting, it was estimated that the 2008, 2007 expenses would be probably no more than 100,000. Obviously, they've looked at this and thought, according to the scope of services, they might need more.
Okay. Just wondering.
Okay. I thought I heard you say, the corridor that we discussed last time and some possible other. So is there any thought, because I know one of my constituents had expressed an interest in extending that study. So when you said, and other things, is that what you were referring to?
Well, I'm sorry. No, I was referring to this, in the scope of services, it says study area will consist of Richland Avenue from the University Courtyard driveway intersection to President Street, and 682, 1/4 mile west and east of Richland Avenue. So it does extend beyond that.
Beyond the
That
intersection.
intersection that we talked about, but not out the other way.
Because I don't have this in front of me. Does that extend then to the new proposed summit? Because are they directly across the street?
It would be that
Yes.
intersection,
It would
that
be
proposed intersection.
That proposed
Yes.
intersection.
Any other questions?
First reading, right?
First reading only, yes.
Maybe we can take some time to actually go over it and discuss it, since it was new to most of us at our next committee meeting. 011407, an ordinance authorizing replacement of the debris tank on the back lawn truck and declaring an emergency. At this point in time, I'd like to make an amendment on this. I would like to change the word dangerous to unsafe,
Second.
please.
Where is that in?
It's
Section
in
4.
section 4.
Section 4, okay.
That's a motion. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion is, the language is always important in the body of the text.
I agree.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, say
Unsafe.
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment passes 7-0. And it's read for the first time, yes.
Do we have to suspend rules on this eventually, or no?
No. Have to find the money first.
Okay.
011507, an ordinance granting a revocable license to Jack Alvis, owner of Alvis Auto Repair, 118 Columbus Road, to allow a portion of a new parking area to encroach on the city right-of-way. Councilmember Phillips.
Yeah, we discussed this in committee last week. The right-of-way on Columbus Road is very wide, and they have worked with us in the siting for the new pump station that's out in that area, and this doesn't seem like something that is going to be an issue for us. So the Planning Commission recommended this, and I think talked about it in committee, are ready to move it ahead.
And I would note that the drawing says that should we widen Columbus Road, we probably won't be moving our pump station. So we're probably safe with this one.
Yeah.
Okay, other comments on 115? 11607, an ordinance amending ordinance 012906, establishing fees as required by the city code. All council members. Now, who's talking on this one?
I thought that you would,
I can
Debbie.
talk about a portion of this. One of the things we talked about related to changes with Title 41 in the amendments that we're gonna talk about in a few minutes is putting the fee in our ordinance that sets all the fees. So the application fee for site plan review is being added to the fees. Okay, I thought I saw something else in bold in here.
yeah, it's page 3, title 20.
Maybe that's old. Okay, so that's all we're doing, is adding the permit application fee for site plan review.
Title 25, right?
No, it's Title 41.
41.
Title 41. Is it bolded?
Is it clear that this is for site plan review? It just says procedure for approval. That's just,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Other comments? Okay.
Look, there is another bold.
We're gonna- It's not supposed to.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay. Any other comments on 11607, first reading? Announcements and other business. Motion to remove from the table.
Madam President, I move that we remove 08907 from the table.
Second.
We're removing it from the table because we have discussed the potential amendments, and I think they're ready to go.
All right, so we'll read it.
Well, I'll have to amend it after we vote on removing it from the
Okay,
table.
all right. This is, the ordinance that we're going to vote on is amending the city code to establish Title 41 site plan review, in case you haven't picked up on that. All those in favor of removing this ordinance from the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is removed from the table, now would be read for the first time.
Madam President, I move that we amend 08907 by substitution.
Second.
In committee last week, we went over a lot of these changes after meeting with a variety of people throughout the city, including representatives of the Chamber of Commerce. We've discussed a lot of the issues that were raised, and with the Planning Commission during our earlier discussions, and came up, I think, with a really good compromise. There's one additional change that the Service Safety Director brought to our attention, which has been made already in Debbie Walker's copy. So on your copy, if you could just add in the bond, 4108, development completion bond, in the body of it, just to be really clear about what that is. And then next week, Ray is going to provide to me a legal definition of development completion bond so that we can add that to our definitions later and make sure that everyone is really clear about what that bond is for. So the main changes that we've made here are that we added a threshold so that for commercial or industrial uses, buildings, if it's less than 5,000 square feet of gross floor area, it would not go through site plan review. We added that to the exemptions. We cleaned up the appeals process, both for new site plan review and for changes to site plans, so that it's clear exactly where people go if they are appealing that. There was a concern that the original language might have been a little bit circular. And there are some changes just in the way it's laid out, so that some things are listed in numbered lists instead of being in a really long sentence. So I think those are the major changes that we've got in the amendment.
Any comments?
Just a clarification, this will be read for the first time, so we'll have two more readings, at which time we will vote at the third reading, and then it goes back to the Planning Commission for their approval, or is that's done? It will be in effect when
It
we
would be in
vote?
effect. Yep.
Okay.
Other comments on this? As Jim said, we've read it for the first time and by substitution. Paul?
Thanks for all the work, Debbie.
It's a monster here.
Well, I do think you have to vote on
The amendment.
the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
It's part of the work right now.
All right. Which, so we voted for substitution and amendment at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
We removed
By
it.
substitution?
You got
Okay. So
Debbie
the-
moved it, was there a second?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The substitution is approved and the ordinance has been read for the first time. The score was 7-0. Okay, other business? We're going to have a meeting next week, and being a ruthless enforcer of Bill's statements, we will have at least, if we want it, planning and development, environmental, and city services and recreation and arts. And so we could fill in the agenda now if you'd like, or say I don't need a meeting, whichever. So, not in that order. Anybody? Yes, Paul?
In terms of environment, I'm going to have Mike come and talk about litter control, give us an update of what he's been doing and how that's been working. Solid waste litter control officer.
Okay, yes.
Give us a little report on how.
And tell him 20 minutes.
I'll tell him 20 minutes, yes.
And we have a long hook we're going to start using. Okay, and then city services, we'll have CFI come. Rhonda will come and talk a little bit about seed money and composting. And recreation and arts, Carol, anything on?
I'll say at this point miscellaneous.
Okay.
I'm very
Oh,
excited.
right.
I'm just not positive.
Okay.
We have an arts meeting Wednesday.
Yeah, under city services, we better put the bridge over the river. Too, for Debbie.
And if we talk about that, then I wasn't planning on having a P&D meeting. I don't think it's my turn.
No.
So, okay.
Queuing is good. It's good for all of us. Okay, you can do it under my agenda.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can we have a transportation to talk about the ridge line?
Yeah, 10:30.
At your, at your house?
Okay, put transportation on the bitter end. Yes, we could look at that.
Well, just keep the discussion going, I don't want to.
Yeah, I think that it would be informative, because I called one of the members of the committee and asked what had gone on. And, you know, the person had read all of the proposals and was pretty well versed, and so I felt like after I listened, I knew much more about what was going on.
We can call that recreation.
Oh, okay. Why not? That's good. All right, so we have our agenda semi-set. Any other agenda items or any other things happening this week people want to announce? Okay, so now we're at the next item on our agenda, which is opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services not covered on the agenda. Any citizens wishing to speak? Please come forward and give us your name, address. And you have 3 minutes. Because I don't know how to run the timer, so we'll trust you to do it correctly.
Troy Gregorino from the west side of Athens, and I guess what I want to mention wasn't specifically covered on the agenda, other than, but first I want to say that I am pleased to hear that council is addressing the mess that has become Richland Avenue, but I've been a little bit baffled to not hear any specifics yet, or at least in what I've read or heard so far, as to what's going to become of this sort of mock walk that we've got across Richland near Porter Hall. We've got this beautiful, purely decorative brick walkway that gives the appearances of it being a legitimate crosswalk and lures pedestrians in only to not give them right of way. And I find that it's just as misleading for motorists as it is for walkers. I mean, sometimes you'll see someone pull up in a car and sort of gesture people across when, well, they're not really supposed to do that because according to the laws it is there. It's not a real crosswalk. And additionally, recently I noticed further confounding about the whole area, if that's possible, are these little bitty signs that say, I believe they read, no parking, stopping, standing anytime. And if I'm the one walking, waiting my turn to cross, it's pointed at me, so it's intended for me. No park, so it means that I can't be in a car if I'm reading it, but I have to be standing there if I'm reading it because I'm waiting to cross. No parking, stopping, standing. And I think I'm a reasonably bright person, and I have to say I have no clue what the sign even means, and I think it stands to reason that lots of other people probably also have no clue what it means. In short, I guess my point is that area needs to either be designated as an honest-to-goodness crosswalk that requires motorists to stop and give pedestrians an opportunity to cross it, or I think the area needs to be done away, the facade of a crosswalk needs to be done away with so that we don't have this ambiguity, of all things to be ambiguous about it. I think a crosswalk would be something not to be. But I feel like it's something that's an accident waiting to happen. I feel like it's a matter of time before something terrible would happen there just because of a needlessly misleading area. And I feel that if at least the facade of this kind of bizarre, just kidding crosswalk is done away with, we can eliminate that opportunity or make it, like I said, an actual crosswalk. I'm just urging that we do something about it before there's bad news there rather than reacting to it after there's something terrible there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Was that part of what you were,
Jumping up and down about last week, yes.
but what you were, when you said the bridge, is that what you were thinking of including the discussion of that whole area?
No, the bridge is the bridge over the Coates Run,
Oh, okay. I'm
the
sorry.
Yet to be bridge.
the bridge.
Okay.
Unbridge.
The
But
unbridge.
these concerns will be part of
Right,
Stop.
and it would be good not to wait
discussions in
so
the near
long.
future, yeah.
And I'm glad that, and just as an aside, I know that Councilmember Flowers said in the chambers that they were going to be starting on the Bentley problem.
Looking at it.
Looking at it. She led me astray.
Assessing
Okay. So there's another move forward. So my threat of dying is serious.
Yes.
Okay, now.
Well taken.
Well taken. The next item on the agenda is an executive session called for by the law director. We would like to have the mayor and the auditor, all members of council in there, and I'd like a motion to go into executive session.
I move we go into executive session.
I think you might want to invite the law.
I thought, I did, I'm sorry.
Law
Oh, we don't
director.
we want the law director, definitely, since he
The
asked for it.
mayor as well? the
I said mayor
auditor,
and auditor already.
Service safe director, yes?
Yeah, and Ray.
Oh, and Ray, yeah, okay,
Okay.
forgot he was here. How do you vote?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
So we will have 5 minutes enforced stringently to get everything wrapped up and out of here. All of you students who are wanting to find out what happened. 5 minutes.